Welcome to the World Financial Symposium's Market Spotlight webcast series. Today's conference will start in a moment. The WFS is dedicated to educating technology leaders through webcasts like these and the Growth and Exit Strategies Conference Series held in London, New York, Silicon Valley, and other tech and financial centers around the world. The speakers and sponsors of these live events read like a who's who of industry leaders. To learn more about our live events for CEOs, owners, and investors, or to access our library of on-demand spotlight webcasts covering markets like IT security, health tech, gaming, and more, please visit WFS.com. And now, let's join today's Market Spotlight webcast.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. We've got a great set of content for you, including a terrific interview with Joel Burrell at Trax. We are introducing a new trend for this year, Composite Commerce. It's a very exciting trend, and I'd like to talk about it. But first, the agenda. Actually, let me introduce myself quickly. My name is Daniel Bernstein. I am a senior vice president here at the Quorum Group. Prior to that, I ran a company called Sandlight Games Corporation, a consumer-based business. So this is very dear and near to me here. And then, I've been here for about 4 years, a number of engagements and clients that are really focused on this space. Very exciting. So by way of introduction, we'll jump into here. I'll introduce the trend. We'll jump into the M&A research report by the Quorum Group. We will go into the interview with Joel Burrell, CEO of Trax, some closing thoughts, and Q&A. Now, everyone, write down your questions. I'm sure you've got a lot of questions about this trend and the interview coming up and some of our research report. We will save the questions toward the end. We should have time for Q&A here. So about composite commerce. So this is a new trend for this year. And composite commerce essentially is the nexus between online and offline transactions. There's a reason why this new trend is so broad. It broadly encompasses interaction of consumers with goods and services in a transactional relationship across multiple markets, both online and offline. As evidenced by Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods, and even more recently with the rumors of Netflix buying physical theaters, this trend crosses from online into brick-and-mortar retail, media, and even entertainment. Along with its core disruption, it brings with itself enabling technologies such as advanced analytics, video recognition, biometrics, and logistics. All of this is creating tremendous opportunity for innovation across multiple verticals from both retail and online players. We're very excited to present this new trend to you, and to kick things off with our research team, Patrick Cunningham will dive into specific deals. Patrick, over to you.
Thanks, Dan. We start with recent M&A activity in composite commerce. The amount of deals in this space has dipped since 2016 because of a lack of qualified companies, but the dip is less pronounced than in other technology sectors. However, deal value is up, likely being driven by both a lack of companies and by factors that Dan has already alluded to. As we can see, e-commerce and payments companies make up the bulk of the deals, with other types of companies accounting for only a few deals, even if they make quite a splash in the headlines. 2017 saw a number of mega deals across multiple sectors, driven by this online-offline convergence, with traditional slot machine maker Aristocrat booking Big Fish and TSYS acquiring Cayenne to begin its shift into retail payments. Many of these deals have largely been in a response to Amazon's disruption of the market and the billions they have spent on acquisitions over the years, most notably, as Dan mentioned, last year's Whole Foods deal. The top buyers in this area are top acquirer private equity firm Vista Equity, European payments processor Wirecard, Japanese marketing agency Dentsu, IT consulting firm Accenture, payment processing company IP Verticals, retail Walmart, and Blackhawk Networks, which itself was a spin-out of Safeway, which was then acquired in January by a private equity consortium. However, acquisitions aren't just mega deals and big corporate roll-ups. Until last year, most deals in this space were under $50 million, but both the supply-side crunch and the increase in consolidation has been steadily driving up value. Moving on to some more specific deals, we start off with Searchlight Capital Partners, another PE, picking up HarborTouch for $500 million to add to its payment portfolio. In an early example of a bricks-to-clicks deal, GeekNet was acquired by GameStop back in 2015 to broaden GameStop's multi-channel reach. TCS Track, a logistics management SaaS for retailers, was picked up by supply chain manager Descartes for a little over $11 million last summer in a deal representative of consolidation happening behind the scenes to keep up with the demand of offline-online conversions. And Alpine Data was acquired by Vista-backed TIBCO Software to add to its machine learning analytics to TIBCO's connected intelligence portfolio, and highlights the importance of AI and machine learning to improve efficiency across sectors, especially in consumer analytics. Lastly, we see another top acquirer, Wirecard, branching out into multiple countries, snapping up payment processing companies and certain assets of Citi across the globe. Most of the deals shown have been in North America and Europe, but there's also been a whole lot going on in Asia. So now I hand it over to my colleague, Libby Check.
Thanks, Patrick. First, it is important to lay the proper foundation, and for composite commerce around the world, that foundation is the device. Compared to other parts of the world, APAC consumers are up to 20% more likely to have made a purchase on a mobile device, according to Nielsen. The prominence of mobile phones in purchase behavior is part of the reason we saw an explosion of interest in mobile payment providers in South and Southeast Asia over the last few years. Wirecard, as Patrick mentioned, invested in India, but they are in good company. Alibaba, Amazon, and Apple all made similar acquisitions in 2017. When we compare e-commerce's impact on total retail sales, the United States is at 9%, barely half of the 17% of sales that come from online shopping in China. In fact, where Chinese consumers spend close to 20% of their income on e-commerce sites, Americans spend about 10%, which translates to 3 times less money overall and ranks Americans at number 7 globally, according to Retail Tech News. That overall comfort with making online purchases is driving what PwC calls content-driven commerce in China. One example, no doubt familiar to many, is from Alipay, the payment branch of Alibaba, who also owns top e-commerce platform Tmall. Users were able to find and hide real money in their homes, cities, and offices, searching for it through a Pokemon Go-like AR experience in the Alipay app. Once they found the Tmall cat logo, they could keep the money, put, of course, right in their Alipay account for easy spending across the ecosystem. Brands are also working with Alibaba to integrate AR functionality into their offline retail experiences. After all, even in China, 80% of money is still spent offline. And stores are no longer a tech-free zone. In their new Shanghai Roastery, Starbucks consumers can fire up an app and point at an object to learn more and collect badges. Also using Alibaba's Alipay to facilitate mobile payment in the same way the Starbucks app does in other markets. Now for some more offline innovation coming out of Asia, I'll hand it back over to Dan for an interview with Singapore-based Trax.
Thanks, Libby. Some very exciting things are happening in this space, and there's a reason why we've decided to have this interview with Joel, and we're very gracious to him for taking his time to do that. Trax is really an innovator in this particular space in shelf analytics. Now, as retailers, offline retailers, are trying to compete with online retailers, they want to do the things that online retailers do really, really well, which is managing that customer experience, that shelf space. And obviously, that's a very, very different challenge when the retail shelf is physically in front of somebody and needs to be managed in a much more efficient way. And that's one of the things that I think Trax does extremely well, which is why they're really a very interesting company, and we're really driving this trend. Trax has acquired a company that's really driving some of the IP innovation that's helping it grow. And so we are very much excited to have Joel here. Joel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Joel Barel. I'm the CEO of Trax. Trax is a technology-based company servicing the retail industry, especially around brick-and-mortar stores. We have a technology that enables manufacturers, retailers, and eventually will also be in the hands of consumers to see retail shelves as they really are as a digital asset. So we take images of shelf space and analyze all the SKUs of the products which are on the shelf in real time with 98% accuracy, augmenting or digitizing the entire shelf space for the benefit of our clients.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit about who your clients are.
Today we are servicing all the stakeholders of the industry. So we work today mainly with manufacturers. We recently launched also a product that aims to help retailers. Again, both manufacturers and retailers, helping them in understanding what is happening on the shelf. And we are planning to extend the technology to the hands of consumers as well.
How are you seeing customer demand and expectation change?
When we started Track 7 years ago, retail industry was considered as a very boring landscape, very conservative, not changing, stagnated. And in the recent years, you can really see the change in the mood and behavior and actions of both manufacturers and retailers as the world becomes more connected and as disruptors to the industry such as Amazon and Alibaba are starting to come from the very strong e-commerce footprint into the brick-and-mortar space. And so we do see our clients are looking to gain efficiencies. That's one area which they focus around the operations and activities as their margins are shrinking, minimum wage is increasing globally, and therefore they need to become more efficient. The other part is really engaging consumers in a different way in order to sustain the relevance of those companies in a world where e-commerce is becoming bigger and stronger, and the world is becoming more connected, not only when it comes to the internet, only by disruptors like Uber and other kind of offline delivery services, which are bringing e-commerce closer to the homes of people.
What are some of the key technologies emerging, both from Trax and from other providers that you see in response to these changes?
I think that the main theme for all of those technologies is around connectivity and bringing more information, more the power of decisions and artificial intelligence into the decision-making process, again, both for manufacturers and retailers. We've seen image recognition, like Trax is doing, playing a strong role there because it's very cost-effective, and there's a lot of big data that can be gathered using this type of technology. Some companies are using sensors, both for human traffic control and study, both in terms of high-value and high-margin goods when it comes to automation of tracking of those goods and frictionless retail. We've seen also technologies around deep learning and analytics, taking big data trends and analyzing patterns to have a better systemic approach in how to make decisions faster, better, and excel in execution.
Thanks, Joel. Looking into the future, currently if someone that's working in these stores looks at the shelf, they're able to comprehend the performance of stock on that shelf and create some really solid analytics to respond to it. But if you were to look into the future of commerce in general, where do you see this whole trend going?
So I think that the experience of shoppers and consumers within the store will be completely different. It's going to be much more immersed. So in the next 12 to 24 months, I believe that for the first time, the industry will be introduced by in-store navigation to the SKU level. When shoppers goes into the store, they will be able to find every SKU or every product within the store in a very granular way, optimizing shopping basket routes, optimizing the way retailers are engaging consumers with promotions, coupons, and new kind of messaging around where in the store they should buy and what kind of better decision power they can have in selecting the goods that they want. There will be also complete transparency in terms of what is on the shelf and what is behind those products in terms of nutrition values and other lifestyle characteristics that will be very engaged and connected to the consumer itself. Essentially, the power of e-commerce and online search and decision-making will be brought down to the brick-and-mortar store itself. And I think that will happen very rapidly, as I mentioned, in the next 1 to 2 years.
That's great, Joel. Obviously, this brings up the elephant in the room, which is Amazon. And Amazon's very, very aggressive movements into the retail space. It's a technology-driven enterprise. Obviously, their acquisition of Whole Foods creates a whole new level of interesting nuance and opportunity in this space. So curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I think in few dimensions. I think the first dimension that I have in mind is kind of Tesla. Tesla is a very great technology company with great technology around battery and around bringing the electricity power into cars, cool design, strong engine, everything. but it struggles to manufacture cars because this is not the core expertise of the company. Companies like Ford and GM, who manufactured cars for hundreds of years, maybe not hundreds of years, but tens of years, have that experience embedded in them in order to excel in that. And I think if you take that analogy to Amazon, Amazon is the biggest, obviously, e-commerce platform globally, but it's still to be proven how scalable, how intrinsic are there in brick and mortar retail. So I think, first of all, the industry has the advantage of experience, and this time it is hundreds of years of experience, how to deal with brick and mortar retail. Technology, as we all know, can be bridged pretty fast, even if not by those companies themselves. There are enough technology companies out there that can provide similar technologies to the ones that Amazon are creating. Also, if you take the technologies that Amazon has created, such as Amazon Go, those technologies are not scalable today to the life of large brick and mortar retailers. So there is still also a technological gap that will prevent Amazon to become a large-scale brick and mortar platform. Amazon itself would like to probably take their technologies and, just like they did with AWS, bringing as a revenue stream, as a technology supplier to the industry, but they will find it very difficult to do because the industry does see them, as your question implied, as a big competitor. And in that sense, I don't foresee Amazon kind of coming in a big way into brick and mortar retail as they did in their e-commerce expansion.
Obviously, this brings a next segment here, which is M&A and exit opportunities for companies. Given some of these trends and some of these very disruptive trends that you're seeing in the industry, what are the key takeaways or thoughts that CEOs of companies should be thinking about as they're considering an exit of their business?
So I think that for a successful, I wouldn't call it M&A, but obviously to become very relevant in the industry, which will yield value in an M&A or any other scenario the company will choose to take, you need to be with a very distinctive ROI. I think that is very important. There are many companies out there that put their merit around analytics or AI or whatever, and there are 1,000 other Me Too's that are saying the same thing, and very difficult to differentiate yourself from the crowd. So I think it's all about ROI, around very tangible use cases. That's one. The second part is really about engagement and connectivity. If you can position the company to be engaged and connected, not only bridging online and offline, brick and mortar to e-commerce, everything to do with what is called in the industry omni-channel, the ability to bridge between people who are shopping offline and buying online, or searching online and buying offline. All of that world is a huge opportunity within the industry, which many companies, both retailers as well as manufacturers, are looking to bridge. So that's another area. And the last area I would focus on is really the connectivity with consumers. We see a lot of demand and a lot of need in the industry to really engage consumers while they shop, especially in brick and mortar, the ability to know what consumer took from the shelf, what is their behavioral patterns, why have they chose what they chose to take. All of those things have a huge impact on the industry. That would be a prime target for many acquirers.
Joel, you and I have known each other for quite some time, and I do recognize that you're one of the visionaries in this industry. So I would love to hear your projection. What would retail and technology in retail look like, not just in the immediate future, but if you project it out 5, 10 years, what would it be like then?
So I think, first of all, that brick and mortar and online will coexist also in the future. But the way we know retail today will be completely different. I think that as the world evolves, the e-commerce experience will become a daily household for every person on earth. And people will shop in brick and mortar, but their shopping experience will be completely different. So everything to do with our daily grocery needs whether it's fresh foods or the daily things that we need like shampoo and toothpaste and things like that. All of those things will be served completely automated by online giants that will supply it to our doorsteps. Probably buildings in the future will include specific pathways that groceries to come into our apartment or into our homes without the need for you to be at home or to open the door or to do things like today we take for granted. I think brick and mortar will be a completely different experience. But the best illustration I have in mind is kind of a theme park. You'll have a lot of attractions. You have a lot of things to entice you to come and shop. It will be things for children if it's more aiming for the younger age, whether this is electronics and gadgets, or it will be more about a lifestyle and nice food and coffee when it comes to more maybe perfumes and cosmetics. There will always be the specialized goods that will be sold in brick and mortar where people would want to be educated, to try out new things, to experiment new types of products. All of these things will find their way into brick and mortar where the touch and feel and the interaction is very important. And all of our normal shopping will become a thing of the past. I know that most people, when they think about shopping, it's not a pleasant experience. It's something people are trying to drag their feet out of from. And I think in the future, it will be just breathing air or drinking water. It will be part of our daily life, which we really don't think about. It just happens, and with a very low friction on the normal stuff, with very high friction with the specialized goods.
That's very interesting. We're starting to see quite a bit of disruption just in the shopping center world. You know, what happened just a couple of years ago when the shopping centers were really, really struggling, the analysts have just about ridden them off. What's happening now is a resurgence of some of these shopping centers in really, really well-run, profitable stores that are focusing on very vertical, specialized shoppers. You know, you would think about what's happening now with Toys R Us, and maybe if they've gone down that path and really have created a much more differentiated offering than what's available online, they may still be doing better than obviously what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the life itself and in the history, there are cycles, and those cycles are sometimes funny to look at. And in the past, like literally hundreds of years ago, you wanted a suit, you wanted a shirt, you went to the tailor, custom made and really sew the suit or the shirt for you. If you wanted a toy, you go to the toy maker, and he would ask you what you want, and he will build a toy specifically for you. And then the whole industrial revolution happened, and suddenly everything is available and pre-made, etc. And now we are seeing the train going back to the fact that you wanted the shirt, you want a suit, you will buy it online. If you want a toy like a game, you will buy it online. You don't need to go to the store to select a Lego. Everybody knows what is a Lego. Everybody knows everything about it. The advertisement is on YouTube. My daughter will know exactly what Lego she wants. She doesn't need to go to the store to select it. But the brick and mortar that will prevail will be the tailors that will now sew the suit exactly to your measurement, or will build the shirt exactly the way you want it. Or my daughter will want to go to this toy maker that will create a toy only for her with her colors or her themes. So I think that the wheel is turning back in that sense, and again, more specialized, handmade, tailored to each specific person. These are the things that will become the trend of the future. The industrialist type of repeating manufacturing of the same item for many people, that will all move up the chain into kind of an online domain.
Joel, thanks again for your time. Very interesting conversation.
Yeah, no problem.
What I'd like to do is wrap up the top 5 takeaways from Composite Commerce. This is extremely difficult, obviously. As you can hear, there are a lot of things that are being disrupted. There's an immense wave of innovation that's happening in this sector and across multiple sectors that are related. Well, listen, I'll give it a stab, so here goes. The first one is very much along the lines of what Joel was saying there at the end, which is fundamentally that retail is changing. Retail is getting more targeted. It's getting more personalized with frictionless purchasing and integration. Digital payments are eating everything. That's our second thought there. Transacting with an Uber is a lot easier than with a taxi. And mobile payment solutions are giving consumers the ability to check out everywhere. And that's happening in different places in a different way. The way it's happening in Asia is obviously different than the way it's happening here in North America, et cetera. There is a convergence of media. Online-only players such as Amazon and Netflix are creating opportunities to interact with their brands in the physical world. Interesting. Analytics and security, both analyzing and securing information, will be a major opportunity and challenge for the future. The technical and business connections are everywhere and are rapidly increasing the buyer universe. If you thought you knew who your buyers were today, it's going to be different tomorrow. So make sure you cast a wide net, because there are a lot of folks that are really interested and focused on this particular trend. Let's go ahead and jump into questions. We have at least two here. There's a question from someone that came in, from someone that actually listened in to our logistics, smart logistics webcast. How does the smart logistics trend play into this composite commerce trend? Very interesting. What's interesting is that there are companies that are online-only companies, such as Wish, that really exist as a result of innovations in smart logistics across all modes of transportation. Now that you can actually smart drop ship an item directly out of China, whether it's headphones or USB chargers or whatever, and then have it be delivered to you in a very expedited, very cheap fashion, is really the result of some of these innovations. Moreover, retailers such as Target are actually taking advantage of these trends and actually acquiring companies that are innovating in logistics. Obviously, Amazon.com has its own fleet that's really focused on delivering their items in a much more expedited, efficient manner. More opportunities are obviously going to be created for existing folks to both on new technology and players such as FedEx and UPS, and obviously USPS continues to benefit from the explosion of e-commerce. Another question is, what are some of the challenges in visual analytics? This is a particularly interesting question that I've been grappling with some of our clients here. In visual analytics, we're growing beyond biometrics and beyond just single face recognition. We're working through facial recognition in the crowd, the ability to basically look at a face and have that be your checkout password or your credit card. And there are challenges with this in a real life environment, and being able to capture faces in fixed cameras in stores, and also in being able to track goods as they're coming in and out. It requires quite a bit of both intelligence on the visual side, and actually acquiring those images, and also on the AI side in determining what are the images, what is a face, what is an item, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see if there are any other questions here. Here's one that just came in. What should management of a mainline grocery chain be thinking about? How to change to stay in business through this transition? Very interesting. Really, I would look at a company like Trax and being able to manage their shelves in a much more efficient way, right? So you may only need 3 or 4 aisles instead of 16 aisles, and those 3 or 4 aisles managed correctly, efficiently, may be enough to create a higher profit and a higher opportunity to engage with consumers. So it's really about smart shelf management, and it's really also about smart logistics. So these two things, I think, are really the guiding principles. And if you look at online, Amazon is able to deliver to you exactly what you're looking for just by looking at the online shelf. Retail shelves are starting to become that, and companies such as Trax are really making that possible for them. So great sets of questions. I think that might be it. We will be providing the presentation through a link that you can play at your convenience, and we'll be sending out that information how to access that. And with that, I want to thank Joe and our research team here at Quorum. Let's go to close.
We hope you enjoyed today's online symposium. If you have any questions not answered, please submit them to info@wfs.com. We look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming live events in a city near you. To register for these live events, view upcoming webcast topics, or hear rebroadcasts of this or other Market Spotlight events, please go to wfs.com. Thank you for attending today's webcast.